I'm Simon Hartzell, and this is NAI Global's Diving into Commercial Real Estate. This podcast is brought to you by the DNA of CRE, which is a joint initiative between the Broker List and Build Out. The survey helps commercial real estate professionals across the country benchmark against competitors, gain insight into tools and practices, and identifies trends for industry growth. If you haven't checked out this survey, it's their 5th anniversary. It's a great opportunity to get involved. Open your Google browser, type in DNA of CRE. Scroll down, you'll find the web address dna-of-cre.buildout.com. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of NAI Global's Diving into Commercial Real Estate. Today's episode is one strategy to step up your networking game through SIOR. Today's guest, we're fortunate to have the president of Sentry Commercial and also the current president of SIOR, Mark Duclos. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Simon. Great to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me give a little bit of bio on you just so our audience knows a little bit of your background. As I mentioned, Mark is the president and co-founder of Sentry Commercial, started in 1991. Mark has over 33 years within the commercial real estate industry, working both local, regionally, and let me add as well nationally with multiple companies. Mark holds the SIOR designation and currently is the SIOR president. Also, he has the past president of SIOR for Connecticut and Western Massachusetts. So again, thanks for joining us, Mark.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Tell the audience a little bit about your background. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit further into how you got into the current position, made your way through the industry.
Sure. As it's specific to SIOR or just the industry first itself? Listen, I'm born and bred in Hartford, Connecticut, and it's a little boring because I didn't move too far from the nest. And I went to college up in Springfield, Massachusetts, and small business school up there. And then I ended up becoming a banker and took a job as a sales rep, a mortgage rep for a local bank up in Suffield, Connecticut, and that evolved into getting into commercial real estate. I ended up working for Citibank, and Citibank ended up giving me kind of a little bit of insight into commercial lending, which then morphed into commercial brokerage. Worked for a developer up in Connecticut, and then got into brokerage in I believe it was 1987. So stayed with that broker for a company called the Farley Company, which is now known as CBRE. And from there, I started my own firm in 1991. So we are a local company based in Hartford, and we are a commercial real estate brokerage and construction management and property management group. So we've grown considerably over the last 30 some odd years.
Now, how did you get introduced to and at what point involved with SIOR?
SIOR, yeah, so my partner at the Farley Company, Bob Daglio, was an SIOR, so that was my initial interest. So we worked as a team at the Farley Company, and that started to pique my interest and kind of saw what he was doing. He was a past president of the chapter there, and you could tell just on a local level, so the Connecticut chapter is Connecticut and Western Massachusetts, and you could kind of understand pretty quickly the bond that the SIOR members had amongst each other. And it was a really unique bond. So really the initial interest was being intrigued with the collegiality of the local chapter. And really, I thought that was, for the most part, the extent of being an SIOR.
And that was, okay, so that was before you began your own firm. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I left Farley back in 1991 and started Sentry Commercial. And then it was just a brokerage and advisory company. And I had not become an SIOR, still had some interest in it, but back then it was very difficult from a paperwork standpoint, quite candidly, to become an SIOR. So you really need to take an awful lot of time, and frankly, life got in the way, and I just never tried. And back in the early 2000s, I decided, you know what, let's make a run at this, because I could see that I was really missing a big component personally and a big component as a company by not being an SIOR. You know, we are known as a local company, a really solid local company, but the extent of our services was right there in Connecticut and Western Massachusetts. We really didn't have the ability to work with our clients outside that market, and we really didn't have the depth of knowledge beyond our local market. And we found that I found that personally to be not only professionally limiting, but personally limiting. I wanted to learn more about just Connecticut and just Western Massachusetts. As much as I love that area, the world's gotten smaller, and you really need to be able to push beyond those boundaries.
And I'm assuming that's what was intriguing about the SIOR organization, and the ability to really break down the boundaries of just working your local market, having the ability to leverage an organization like SIOR.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the one thing, SIOR, I think I originally looked at it as being a vehicle to allow my clients services outside of the market. And I also saw it as a vehicle to receive referrals from other SIORs outside my market, so incoming and outgoing business. And I really looked at it from a transactional standpoint. And certainly history has shown that it's been an incredible vehicle for transactional volume for our company and for me personally. That said, the real big value for SIOR that I didn't give at the time, number one, was the solidification of my relationships right there in the local market, which I had seen, of course, from my partner, Bob Daglio. But the other thing I didn't see was really just the pure ability to have significant relationships with other brokerage people throughout the country and throughout the world. And it was really what I missed there was the fact that it really started with relationships, and that's what I really value right now. It's the relationships that I've got with all my colleagues at SIOR. And of course, when you have those relationships, then of course that translates into the transaction. So I kind of had it reversed. It was like, bring me transactions and I could service my clients, great. But I really slighted the fact that no, it's really about building relationships throughout the world.
So, and as that, would you say that's why it's important to immerse yourself with an organization like SIOR? Is that ability to cultivate not only the client relationships, but also professional relationships with other industry professionals?
Yeah, absolutely, Simon. I think brokers have a lot of different ways where they can create relationships, right? I mean, you can join a lot of different organizations, both locally, regionally, and nationally and internationally. I think you can, and each organization has different attributes, right? For different reasons why you would join different organizations. The reason why I joined SIOR is because it wasn't just about establishing relationships with numerous people throughout the country and throughout the world. The one thing about SIOR is it's a designation, and it's a designation that measures what I call the what and the who. And so the what of the individual is somebody who's been in the business for a long time, has a proven track record of doing a number of transactions in their career, and does it ethically. And then what I'll call the who is we've got people in our organization that are trusted, professional, and respected. So it wasn't just about developing relationships, it was developing relationships with the right people, and people that I love associating myself doing business with.
Well, and that brings up a good point. I mean, in the industry, real estate in general, that ethics is a big portion of one's business. So the ability to be part of something greater and trust and know that you're playing on the same level as everybody else ethically and professionally is probably in my opinion, one of the most important things. Wouldn't you agree?
I think it's one of the most understated in the business. And I think SIOR, while we always profess to have ethical people, you kind of take that for granted. And I think that we've actually the last year started to try to put that a little bit more to the forefront. And it's not as much, I would say, ethics, because ethics is kind of, you define ethics by did you have an ethical violation or not? And we would hope that the bar is not that low. It's like that is the lowest standard. It's going above and beyond being ethical. It's again being trusted and respected and professional and doing everything the way you're supposed to do it. And obviously then doing it ethically. But absolutely, if you don't have that component in your organization, what's your organization? I mean, if you've got nothing.
Well, it's very interesting because I've been with NAI Global now for 5 years and have been very fortunate to attend many of the SIOR events in the spring and the fall, and you see a unified professional organization like no other. And it's interesting. Maybe you can, and we kind of touched upon it with ethics and the what and the who, but maybe you can elaborate on your experience and the SIOR culture, because it kind of put commercial real estate aside. I see people are smiling. It's a whole different type of energy.
Yeah. So, what is it, right? And I drink the Kool-Aid, and I really appreciate what you're saying there about our organization, because we like to think that's what we're about, and it's really nice to hear you say that's what you see when you go to our 2 World Conferences. What is it? Well, it probably starts from the fact that we've got a lot of like people within our organization, a lot of people that understand the need for long-term, deeper relationships, and that they get that they need to give to get, meaning they're not there just to cut a deal. They're there for learning. They're there to understand the people they're with and get to know people a little more. I mean, we are known as a relationship organization. Yes, we offer education and a lot of great educational opportunities, but we're not known primarily as a educational institution. We are known primarily as a relationship developing institution. And I think that attracts like people. And so those people get it. I think they know when they go to these conferences, they're going to shake hands. I mean, we've rebranded our 2 conferences now. First is in the spring. It's called Transact 360, which is based on meeting people and doing deals with them. And then our fall now is Create 360, which is creating relationships. And I think that's generally what our members like. They like developing those relationships, and they totally get that it's a collaborative effort. They need to give to get, and they are in an atmosphere where they can reach out even to a competitor, ultimately a competitor, and get information and get insight and get help that you otherwise wouldn't get outside the organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not that easy that you can call up a competitor and ask for whatever it might be, even just for professional advice. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with being able to build the relationships and trust and unify everybody there.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you, I was just like I said, I just got off an airplane today, and one of the first emails I pulled up was a form on SIOR. It was an email that went out, and it was one of our members looking for help in a particular problem that she had and that she was dealing with today. That's number one. Yesterday, when I got off a plane, I got a call from a broker who's a quasi-competitor, said he's doing a deal in Western Massachusetts, and could I help him out with some comparable information, a comparable sale and lease information. He was an SIOR. I'm not sure that you're giving that information to just a person right off the street. We probably aren't. But in SIOR, you absolutely do.
Talk to me a little bit about where the organization is currently and future plans, or or how things are planning to develop within SIOR?
Yeah. So we have a 3-year strategic plan. So everybody's like, when I became president, it's like, well, what are your goals and what's your legacy? And it's like, guys, we really don't have a legacy. We've got a 3-year strategic plan that we put in place and we renew every 3 years. And that gives a outlook for what SIOR is going to look like in the next 3 years and our goals and our, and just again, but kind of where we're going. And then we develop an annual operating plan every year that supports that 3-year strategic plan. So it's a tactical plan that says, yes, here's where we are in the 3-year strategic plan, and here's what we need to do the coming year. So our focus is very, very direct. Our focus right now is, and there's a lot of subsets of these, but the 3 major focuses are growth of our membership as defined by ethnicity, diversity, gender, by specialty, meaning what we call grow the office portion of our membership. So growth of our membership. We're looking at the enhancing and creating an even better member experience at SIOR, and that includes very much so at the chapter level. So we know that a lot of our strengths comes from our chapters, and that many times the strength of our membership is really as strong as the experience they get at the chapter level. So we're working very hard at making sure our chapters right across the board are operating at the maximum level. That's one of the reasons why I'm in Greenville. We're doing chapter visits, and Greenville's the Carolinas, are one of our best chapters, and I'm just there to say hi, but we want to make sure those chapters are humming. And our last one is revenue growth. It sounds selfish that one of our goals would be revenue growth, but we know that increasing our revenues will, number one, keep member expenses down, and number 2, revenue growth will allow us the resources to be able to execute all these other things that we've been talking about over the years. So our membership's never been better with 3,400 members, and our financial position's never been better. But we know you can't sit on your heels here, but we've got to continue to push and get better. And I would say the last one that's starting to creep up is, and it's just on our radar screen, is really that diversity issue, is making the industry a more diverse industry. I just came from a forum down in Fort Lauderdale that was put on by CCIM. Wonderful job, and talking about how the heck do we make our industry more diverse.
Well, you bring up a great point, because just in maybe a struggle in SIOR, CCIM, and all organizations, or just in general in the industry, is that there's a shortage of young talent, or younger, not by age, but just young professionals coming into the business. And how do you see SIOR engaging more younger professionals to get involved?
Yeah. Well, we have a YP program, and the YP group does a phenomenal job in reaching out to the young, and that's both at the global level and at the chapter level. We're seeing much better efforts at the chapter level to reach out to the globals. Our relationships with our colleges, we're starting to develop more and more relationships with colleges for having young students come to our conferences. As you've been to those conferences, you might notice that we have more and more student visitors that come and get to experience the industry. So doing things like that, certainly just a total awareness for reaching out and shaking hands and making sure that young people are welcome. But I think we need to do more. We need to do more, because while our average age has dropped a year through that effort, we've gone from about 54 as a median age down to 53. That number is still too high. We need to get more. And one of the challenges is we're a designation, right? And so to get membership, it's really twofold, right? It's one thing to get new members that are younger, but of course we're a designation, and you have to be in the business X amount of years to, and then be able to have a certain level of transaction. So we tend not to get younger people there. So our effort actually has to go beyond that. We have to go further into the pipeline and down the chain into the colleges, into the high schools. We went up to Cornell University in the Nexus program, working with high school kids from all over the country, introducing them to commercial real estate.
And that's awesome. Just making that awareness and letting them know that, hey, this exists for a profession. Like, and I think young people in general just need to know that, hey, there's an opportunity here, a big opportunity as this opens up, that for them to take advantage of something that's here. So it's great that SIOR is taking the initiative to dig deeper and take the next steps to try to open it up for more young professionals.
Yeah, and but it's a long-term effort. So, and again, I give kudos at this. We had that function done in Fort Lauderdale last week. I give big kudos to CCIM for really stepping forward as an industry, exploring the challenges.
Nice. Well, let me jump into some maybe tougher, challenging questions, and we like to call these some of the fun questions here. So. Give us a sense. Let's get to the real person, Mark. Let's find out what really makes you tick. What's some of the favorite foods that you can't pass up in your menu of all this travel you got going on?
Oh, well, one of my biggest challenges is that I'm a gluten-free guy. I've been a gluten-free guy for about 25 years.
Wow.
And the good news is that over the last 25 years, gluten-free products have become more and more available. When I first was diagnosed as a high gluten intolerance back 25 years ago, the worst thing in the world was I loved sweets, and including baked goods, and you just could not find a good brownie or a good cookie. So my biggest challenge, quite candidly, is not actually the main meal. It's finding a nice piece of pastry or a nice cookie or that's gluten-free. And those are that's easier to find, but it's a challenge. And oh, by the way, yours truly cheats, because you look at that plate of cookies and you just have to take a little bite. So that's my biggest challenge. My biggest favorite food, and you could ask my wife, is chocolates and brownies and cookies.
So you got a sweet tooth. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I could make those a meal.
So, and you're traveling a lot. I'm sure there's challenges with trying to have a diet and get those specific types of foods. So, where and being part of SIOR, just in the industry in general, puts us on the road a lot. If you weren't traveling, what's the one place you'd like to visit, either personally or with the family? What are your thoughts?
It's interesting. We just started traveling. My wife and I woke up probably about 5 years ago, and so I've got a 30-year-old daughter and a 28-year-old son. My son actually works with me. And we woke up and we said, you know what, our kids travel more than we ever do. And so we said, let's start traveling. And one of the benefits of that, we started traveling, and we actually started traveling with the family and actually with SIOR to SIOR events. Our family's been to Warsaw at the Warsaw conference a couple of years ago. A couple of years before that, we were out in London, and they were going to Dublin in July for the European conference in July in Dublin. And I would say, though, the one place number one, we spent a lot of time in Vermont. We're skiers, and we spent a lot of time up in Vermont at our place up there. But the one that I would want to go to that I haven't gone to is probably Hawaii. And I think the family would probably. Yeah, I think the family would all jump in the plane right behind me and go. So that would probably be the goal.
Well, we won't spoil this and get them a chance to listen to this. They might hold you to it. So that's the best part about being in this business, at least for me, is the ability to open up doors and allow you to travel and spend time with your family and do things that I feel this industry has opened you up to and allows you to take advantage of. So,
absolutely,
all great stuff.
So I could not agree more. Could not agree more.
Unfortunately, Mark, we are out of time. I would so much love to thank you for taking the time today to speak with us. And if any of our audience is curious to learn more about SIOR or just talk to you further about your experience in the industry, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, and just to piggyback that, I absolutely welcome anybody who's listening to this to take me up on my contact information there. Pick up a phone, call me, and talk about this. I would love to talk to them about SIOR, talk to them about the industry, and anything I can do to help them better make decisions. So my contact is again Mark Duclos, Duclos. I'm at Sentry Commercial, Sentry Commercial out of Hartford, Connecticut. My phone number is 860-983-5630, or you can email me, although my emails admittedly get backed up a little bit, at Duclos, Duclos, at sentrycommercial.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Mark, again, thank you so much. If anybody that's listening wants to learn more about SIOR, NAI Global, please feel free to email us at help@naiglobal.com. Thanks for listening.